Everybody, welcome back. It's Mo again. Well, in this lecture, we're going to be looking at is how to configure a AAA server. What is a AAA server? All right, accounting, authentication, and authorization. Watch this, and you'll see the benefit of it. So let me get myself a router first. Here's a router. All right, and let me get myself a switch. So this is fresh, brand new, no configuration at all. And let me get a few machines. Let's say one, two, three, four. And let me get myself an actual server. All right. So watch this. Let me make my connections. Let's say this one connects to port one. This one connects to port two. I got port three and then port four, as you see, right? And the server is going to port five and my router is gigabit 00 to, let's say, gigabit 01. Remember, router interfaces are always down. Switch interfaces are actually always up. So I don't want to do usernames or passwords on the switch or the router. Everything will be created here. But before we get into that, why don't we do our initial configuration? So let me go to the CLI of the router. All right. So the first thing I want to do is global configuration mode, change the host name to R1, set up and enable secret, which is Cisco. Service, password encryption. I like to do this. No IP domain what? Lookup, right? This is common that you should always do. Interface gigabit 00, and let's say I put an IP address 100.254, right, with a default subnet mask. And if I don't do no shut, look at this. Do show IP interface brief and take a look. See this? It's down. If I do show run, look at this. My interface gigabit 00 says shut down. So I have to do a what? A no shut to turn the interface on. Remember that? If I don't, the interface is always going to be down. I'm not creating usernames here. I am not doing anything at all. What I want to go ahead and do is exit, and let's say line on zero. Do I do this right now? Remember, I did this and I did password, Cisco, then line VTY and all this. I'm going to do this later. Okay. Why? Because I'm trying to move the authentication to where? To a centralized server. That's what I'm trying to do here. So I'm going to do WR. That's all. That's what I'm doing over here. And I'm going to go to my actual switch. See that? And I'm going to put an IP on the VLAN itself. So first of all, I want to go ahead and go to global configuration mode, host name, switch one, enable secret is Cisco, service, password encryption, then interface, VLAN one, no shut, all right? And give this an IP address as, let's say, 100.253 space the default mask itself, right? And then I want to do WR. So I'm not creating usernames or passwords or anything on the router or the switch at all. I'm going to have a AAA server, which is either a Radius server or a TACACS. Radius is for every vendor. TACACS Plus is for who? That's only for Cisco. So watch this. If I go to the desktop and give this an IP address, let's say this one is 100.100. My default gateway, which is the IP address of the router, is 100.254. My DNS is all eights. And I'm going to close this out. I'm going to go to services. I'm going to go to the AAA. Counting, which is for log files, authentication, verifying the username and the password, and authorization, what type of access do you have? I'm going to do the service on. I cannot do Radius. Cisco Packet Tracer only supports TACACS, but it's the same actual commands. And I'll show you what's the difference. So I'm going to say TACACS. And here, the client name, the first one is actually R1. What's the IP address of R1? It's 100 dot what? 254. And I have to come up with a shared secret. And my shared secret will be CCNA, right? And I'm going to add. My next one is switch one. And what's the IP address of switch one? 192.168.100.253. And the secret is also what, folks? CCNA. And I'm going to choose what over here? TACACS and add. Here are the usernames. You see this? That's where I create the username. So I'm going to create the U1, and here's an actual password. So I'm going to put the actual password, which is what? Let's say CCNA, add, and I'm going to create another username, which is U2, and the password is CCNA, and add. What is my TACACS server? It's what? 100.100. So TACACS is only for who? Just Cisco. So if I type in TACACS, right? Let's say TACACS Plus. This is only for Cisco. Now you see this? This is actually Cisco only. It doesn't work for other vendors. All right. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Radius is for everybody. So now I configured my TACACS server, which is my centralized AAA server. Let me put IPs over here. So I'm going to give this an IP address, which is 192.168, let's say 100.1. And this one is 100.2, right? And then 100.3 and 100.4. 192.168, 100.3, and then 100.4. And there we go. So we have all these things, right? The actual numbers. So my router's IP address is 100.254, and this is 100.253. Well, how do I make these as clients for my TACACS server? So when I remote in to the router or the switch, or if I connect through the console, it's going to check the server for authentication, not local device. Imagine having 20 switches at work and a few routers. Do you want to go to each one and create usernames, or would you like to have a centralized Radius server or TACACS server? Of course, I want to have a AAA server. So I'm going to go to my router. Watch this. What do I do in terms of configuration over here? So first of all, I have to go to my global configuration mode, and I'm going to ask for help. And look at this. I see TACACS server. See, I don't see Radius. So if I was using Radius, I would say Radius dash server itself. So I'm going to say TACACS server itself. Ask for help. Who is the host? Who is the actual server? It's 100.100. Enter. Then I'm going to do the TACACS server again. Ask for help. What is the key? What is the password? CCNA. Just like this. See that? That's the key. Now I need to enable the AAA. Is there a AAA command? Yes, there is. You see this? So I have the AAA command, AAA space. I have to enable the new module first because I'm using this module for my actual authentication. Then I say AAA space question mark. I'm using this for authentication, so I'm going to say members for accounting, authentication, and authorization. My focus is authentication. So I'm going to do authentication, right? Space, question mark, unrecognized. I typed something wrong. You see this? Authentication. All right. So you have to be careful when you actually type the commands. And I'm going to do login, space, question mark. And what do I do over here after I do the actual login command? Default question mark, what group? And look, I either see Radius or TACACS. Of course, I'm using what over here? TACACS. That's a group that I'm actually doing. Space question mark, right? So space question mark. I could see that I want to check which accounts over here. I could go ahead and press what over here? Enter, right? Just like that. Or check local username authentication, just like that. Then my next step over here is I already did this here. I need to apply this to the console and the telnet. So line console 0. I'm not putting a password over here. I'm going to say login. Look at this. You see this? Authentication. All right. Space what? Default. And I'm going to press enter. Then I want to do it for my telnet. Line VTY, let's say 0 space 2. Let's say we're doing telnet over here and I do login authentication default. And then I'm going to do WR. I need to do the same thing on the switch. So I'm going to go to my switch, right? Exit out. Global configuration mode. I'm going to say TACACS server. Same thing. Host. What's the IP address on my TACACS server is 100.100. And my TACACS server, the key is what? CCNA, right? That's what I have the key. Then I need to enable AAA new module, right? AAA. Then I specify my actual what? Authentication, right? Login, default, and question mark. And I'm going to do the group and question mark. I'm going to use the TACACS server as you see. See that? Just like that, question mark. And I'm going to go ahead and press enter. Then I want to apply this to my console. See this? And then I want to do what in the console? Login, authentication, then default, right? And then do the line VTY 0 space 2. right? And do login authentication default, just like that. Then I do Control Z and let me save my configuration. Let me exit out right now and press enter. Username is what? U1. What is the password? CCNA. I'm in. Where did I create user one? U1 on the TACACS server, and this is enable secret, which is on the switch itself, which is Cisco. There we go. How about if I telnet into the switch? How is that possible? Let me open this, open the command prompt, and say telnet on 192.168.100.253. Username, let's say U2. Password CCNA. There we go. And now I'm in. See that? How about if I telnet into the router? So I'm going to say telnet 192.168.100.254. And then username is U1 and password is CCNA. Now I'm actually in. See this? If I want to go ahead and console into the router, and let's say I exit out, everything is created where? On the TACACS server. Username, let's say U2, password CCNA, EN, and the password is what? Cisco. Do you see that? So now I have a centralized server for my authentication to authenticate with a switch or to the router. I don't have to create usernames here. I don't have to create usernames here. I create everything on my AAA server. So when I authenticate, it's going to move the authentication to the server. It's going to move the authentication to the actual server itself. That's called the TACACS or Radius. Remember, Radius is for Cisco, non-Cisco. TACACS is only for Cisco vendors. That's what I wanted to show you in this lecture. So we'll see you folks in our next lecture. Bye now.